What I've seen is that if you look at okay, well, let me just get to the breaking news. If it's not necessarily breaking news, you should know by now. Al Haymon and Haymon boxers have been brought out of whatever their agreement was with Golden Boy Promotions. So basically what we've been talking about for the last 7 months or so about, well, if Al Haymon boxers leave, Golden Boy will have only a certain amount of boxers. And now that is true. Right now it looks like Amir Khan, Lucas Matisse, Leo Santa Cruz, I think Deontay Wilder are going to be fighting on Golden Boy Promotions cards. But no more guys like Adrian Broner, Marcos Maidana, Danny Garcia, Peter Quillen, and the list goes on and on and on. Now, in June of 2014, Richard Schaefer stepped down after we found out that Oscar De La Hoya filed a $50 million arbitration against Richard Schaefer. Now, basically what arbitration is not a lawsuit. It's where you go behind closed doors and you try to work this shit out without dealing out basically the dirt on each side. So what you see now is you see Golden Boy in a situation who I heavily support. Why? It's because they want to put on the big fights. Now they're in a situation where they have basically very little boxers to work with, which is why Oscar De La Hoya must have seen something coming and he aligned himself back with working with Top Rank. So with the stables combined of both of those fighters, fights can happen. But when it comes to Al Haymon and when it comes to the fact that Richard Schaefer has also been purchased out of his 8% of the shares that he owns with Golden Boy Promotions, which will most likely go to Bernard Hopkins, make him a bigger shareholder in Golden Boy Promotions. Richard Schaefer is now basically free, if I'm correct, by the definitely by fall of 2015 to be working as a boxing promoter again. Haymon Boxing, as we know, or Haymon Sports or whatever it's called, we've been saying, well, who's going to be the promoter for Haymon since Richard Schaefer is going to be on the shelf with Golden Boy Promotions until 2018. I don't know the details of the deal. Maybe Oscar De La Hoya just got sick and tired of going to Haymon, asking for certain fights, and Haymon just basically saying no. Now, I'm going to just point out a scenario of what was told to me, that basically how it goes. So Oscar De La Hoya and Steven Espinoza would say some shit like, well, can we get, and this is for real, but even though I'm not, put it this way, this didn't exactly happen with this situation, but I'm just throwing a general scenario out there. So they'll go to Al Haymon. Well, and this is De La Hoya and Espinoza. They'll go to Al Haymon and say, well, can we get Danny Garcia versus Lamont Peterson? And then Al Haymon will be like, I'll give you Danny Garcia versus Rod Salka. And then he don't budge from that. You see me? Or Danny Garcia versus Gary Tito Prezero. You know? So you can see De La Hoya has been trying to pull power moves as far as taking Canelo off of Showtime to limit basically Haymon's 154-pound fighters from getting big fights. Because when I had an interview with De La Hoya myself, I didn't think at the time, because it was the first interview I've ever done in my life, so I didn't think at the time to put together, when I asked him, well, who's Canelo's going to be fighting next, that he was saying all HBO fighters at that time. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, Demetrius Andre, Joshua Clottey, and it was a couple other people. But he didn't say nothing about, you know, any Showtime 154-pound guy. So I thought to myself, oh, he knows something up after I watched the video over and over again myself. So now looking at the landscape, right, you got Haymon Boxing officially, Al Haymon Boxing, Al Haymon Fighters. You got Al Haymon. I'm going to just go off the list from the top of my head. Now, even though those guys are still guys like Amir Khan, Lucas Matisse and Leo Santa Cruz, and Leo Santa Cruz and Al Haymon are really, really close. Look at that as being a part of the agreement, because Golden Boy wasn't going to allow those guys to leave, or would be dumb to allow those guys to leave without getting something from the deal. And of course, they probably got a shitload of money. But now you think, okay, look at Haymon Boxing. You got guys like Deontay Wilder. Now, I know I've named these guys, and I'm just going to name the overall Al Haymon fighters who will most likely be fully Al Haymon fighters within the 2 years. So you got Amir Khan, Danny Garcia, Adrian Broner, Keith Thurman, Iris Landy Lara. You know, Floyd Mayweather, count him out as an exception. You got John Molina, Lucas Matisse, Marcos Maidana, Robert Guerrero, Jamal Charlo, Errol Spence, Gary Russell Jr., and the list, Austin Trott, it's just Danny Jacobs, Peter Quillen, Jermaine Taylor. And they have so many fighters in so many divisions, meaning Haymon Boxing, to put on so many super fights. But I have to ask you now, understand, right? You have to think, well, Richard Schaefer, once again, they had a plan. Richard Schaefer and Al Haymon had a plan that did not involve Golden Boy Promotions. So when Richard Schaefer had to step down, I don't think they saw that coming. So therefore, Haymon said, okay, fuck it. We're going to scrap 2014 and we're just going to hold our boxers out, fill our dates that we're supposed to fill, but we're not going to put on the super fights that we want to put on until we get on NBC. Now, common sense tells me that, but then I think, well, looking at some of these bizarre moves these Haymon boxers been doing, they walk away from God knows how much money, and the reputation that Al Haymon has of not matching his fighters with other fighters outside of the Al Haymon stable, unless it's with guys like Lou DiBella or somebody like that, or smaller promotional companies. It's hard for me to believe that Haymon boxing on NBC Sports is going to be good for us. You know, the real box, the hardcore boxing fans, not the people who turn on NBC and be like, oh, boxing's on the night. And you see some poor soul getting their ass beat by a Marcos Maidana or Robert Guerrero, you know, or a Adrian Broner or somebody. Because think about a marketing standpoint, right? You never watched boxing a day before in your life. But let's say, I was Grace Station. I don't even know if Will and Grace still comes on anymore. I don't even watch, let's say I don't even know if Big Bang Theory, that's that shit people be watching these days. Let's say if you're watching that one night and then boxing comes on right after that. And you're just some nerd geek guy, no offense, you know, with your comic books and shit. And you see somebody getting, you know, you see a fight, you're like, oh, this is boxing. I'm going to check this out. And then within 1, 2, 3 rounds, you see somebody getting their ass beat. What are you going to think? Like, oh, this is hardcore. I'm going to tune into this next month. You know, so you have to think, who are they appealing to? Are they appealing to making new boxing fans by providing bullshit fights? Because you're seeing knockouts. Now, remember, these fights we're seeing knockouts. We're seeing the Haymon fighters win because they're supposed to win. But at the same time, we're not seeing the fights that we want to see. So they're exciting fights, yes. And for Showtime subscribers, people who've been around Showtime for so long and they wonder why their Saturday nights is filled up with boxing, you have to supplement them, but also look who's getting, you know, messed over. So I expect those Haymon boxing events on NBC to pull in good ratings just because. But then when you look at, well, there's so many different questions. You know, that haven't been answered. For example, NBC actually have a live streaming service. They do, a live streaming online service that basically is not being used for anything from my understanding. So what fights, for example, if we wanted to see Danny Garcia versus Lamont Peterson, would they make us pay some shit for that? You know, like $9.99 a month to be to see fights like that, and then we get like the bullshit fights on NBC. I'm trying to think like, what they're doing has to bring in money, and you're not gonna be snoring. It's the dog back here. Get up. You don't see me sleeping. You have to understand what they're doing is they have to bring in money. They have to bring in money. So what I'm thinking is, how can they bring in revenue to take care of guys like Peter Quillen and Adrian Broner, who walked away from so much? If you look at the amount of money Adrian Broner walked away from, you know, and you look at the NBC deal is over $20 million, under $40 million, and Adrian Broner is going to get $40 million from Rock Nation. And I know it was for 2 fights. I know all the details, but it's just like, well, where can that money come from? And I asked myself, can a Danny Garcia versus Adrian Broner, right, do 1 million buys on live streaming with technology today? Will people pay for online service of live streaming in boxing today? So many questions. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of time off on this subject because I did 3 videos related to it in some way, shape, or form. When you talk about Deontay Wilder versus Bamanes Tavern, you got to talk about how he walked away from that money. When you talk about Adrian Broner walking away from that $40 million, you know, then you talk about the Rock Nation card, and now this is so much that me knowing so much, my videos, I start confusing myself because I say, well, I got to talk about this, but I got to talk about that too. and I try to compact it all into one video, and that's why I'll be jumping all over the place, because I expect that a lot of people that watch these videos for the first time really don't be knowing what's going on. But once again, that's what I do, is to keep up with all that shit every single day. And I know I'm not getting as many interviews as I should be to somewhat give people the comfort of knowing that, oh, he's credible. But listen, like I said, when I'm sitting there on social media and I'm chatting with you guys and doing this and that, I'm also on the phones. I'm also in my inbox chatting with people. I'm also in the emails, and I get credible information. But I'm just not a guy that's just, just don't like, putting people's business out there, as far as, like people telling me shit. But anyway, TstreeT Controversy, RealCombatMedia.com, the #1 boxing source on YouTube, period, bar none. Major changes in 2015. So I guess you can look at it like Al Haymon-ish. I'm literally probably 3-4 weeks at the most of some major changes. I'm talking about you will see it. So I just say, yeah, I'm hanging there. I understand what people have been asking me for. They want me to start getting to fights. I'm going to a fight in a week. The Bernard Hopkins 50th birthday celebration card. I'm going to be going to multiple fights. I'll be making my first trip to Vegas as a boxing reporter. So, I don't know what fight that's for yet, but, Mayweather, Pacquiao, oh, God. But we'll just have to see. TstreeT Controversy Live.